Hi, good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to those of you who are joining us from the East Coast or from everywhere else in the world. We're going to get started here in just a minute or two, but I'm Luke Reynolds with the Irrigation Association, and really thrilled to be here this morning to talk a little bit about remote irrigation management with two of the irrigation's brightest minds from Rainbird, Eric Evans and Neil Kornitsky. We're going to have a great conversation today, huh, guys?
Can't wait.
And folks, if you don't mind, I would love to see where everyone's joining us from. So please feel free to drop in the chat where you're joining us from. Oh, lots of West Coasters here. That's great to see. And Eric, Neil, you guys want to tell us where you're joining us from?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I'm joining us from Tucson, Arizona, which is where Rainbird's headquarters is at. Um, so we have a balmy 83-degree day here in November.
Yep. And I'm Eric Evans, also from Rainbird, and I live in the Phoenix, Arizona area, a couple miles away from Neil down in Tucson. Also looking at a very warm and sunny 80-degree day today, so excited to be here.
Well, that's awesome. I'm just looking through the chat here and want to welcome, I'm going to say this wrong, but Abdul Wahad from Egypt. Great to see some global participation today. Really appreciate you joining us, and great to see some folks up in Canada. So really some nice global participation. So really appreciate that. It's really nice to see everyone. But as I said, I'm Luke Reynolds. I'm Associate Director of Government and Public Affairs with the Irrigation Association. I'm going to turn it on over to Eric and Neil and go ahead and let them get started talking remote irrigation management. And I'll just say, we're really grateful for the both of you to join us this morning. We've got a little giveaway we're going to have at the end of the show. And this webinar is eligible for one CEU, but we do remind everyone that you do need to stay for the entire period in order to earn that continuing education unit. So thank you very much, and glad to see everyone. And let's go ahead and kick it off.
Thank you for the introduction. I saw one of the locations in the chat was the DFW airport. And I gotta say, I'm usually not as productive with my layovers as that. So kudos to that person. Um, to get started though here, I'm Neil Kornitsky. I am the product manager at Rainbird for IQ4, which is our central control system. I've been with Rainbird for almost 4 years, and I'll be at the IA show here in about a month in Louisiana. So if any of you all are going to be there, please stop by and say hi. And I'll be happy to say hello and show you around our booth.
And I'm Eric Evans. I'm the product manager at Rainbird for our new 2.0 app as well as our classic app. I also cover the RC2 controller and the Link 2 Wi-Fi module. I've been at Rainbird for a little bit over 2 years. Before that, I was largely in the um, internet and smart home world. So happy to bring some of that experience to the irrigation side of things. And I will also be at the IA show booth this year. So be sure to stop by and say hello.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, Eric's the smart one. We a quick note. We of course work at Rainbird, so a lot of what we discuss, we'll use Rainbird examples, but we really tried to make sure that our content here was broadly applicable. So just please know that behind all of this, what's really most important to us is that people find ways to make their businesses run better, irrigate more efficiently, get more solutions out of the different products that various manufacturers are offering. So just know that. Um, One of the topics that Eric and I wanted to go over was using remote management as a team. And to us, there's sort of a few things that factor into that: accessibility, access rights and collaboration. Um, I don't know if any of you have been to one of our fly-ins or other events. I'll sometimes joke about how much fun it is to talk about account management and things like this. And I kid because it's oftentimes not the most exciting topic, but it is really important when it comes to leveraging remote management in today's world. Uh, I think we look back at what central control looked like 30 years ago, and it's similar but different today. And so one of the big parts of that comes down to how you access it and how much easier it is and what comes along with that. Accessibility can mean a lot of different things. We're not really talking about accommodations for people that are differently abled. We do, of course, at Rainbird, we take that into account, looking at things where it's usable for people with color blindness or other disabilities. But what we're talking about right now, or what matters more for this discussion, is you know the ability to use whatever remote management system that you've chosen in a way that really fits into the day-to-day interactions of your business. A tool that is difficult to use or a tool that is inconvenient to use is not one that you're going to end up leveraging very frequently. So a lot of times when we think about our systems and what remote management means to our customers, we're thinking about kind of the different types of people that are using our systems. And you might have someone like a water manager or a business owner who's working in an office and needing to work at scale. You'll have technicians in the field who are performing on-site um, tasks. We've also got property owners and homeowners to worry about. Again, thinking back to the sort of previous world of what central control somewhat used to be, it was sort of only in the hands of water managers, or much more closely only in the hands of water managers. And today it's something that everyone's interacting with, and most, if not all, irrigation professionals are sort of expected to be able to do, and to do efficiently. So as you're making a choice about uh, the remote management system that's going to be right for you and your business, really thinking about how will I use this physically, how will I be able to use this, and for us what that means is a system where I know it's a little bit of an eye chart, so there's nothing for you to memorize or really take down notes on here about these screenshots, but um, you know, a lot of what our mission has been in recent years has been to have our IQ system, which works really well when you're on a desktop interface operating at scale. But we also have it able to scale down to a phone or tablet, but also our mobile application, so that no matter what device you're using, what use case you have in that given moment, the remote management solution you've chosen is accessible to you. Access rights and account management is another big one. You know, it's the most boring topic. It's the one that no one wants to pay attention to, but it's really meaningful for when it comes to I've installed a controller with connectivity. I've got my remote management set up, but I'm not doing this alone, right? There's of course people out there that are still single owner operators, but most people have a team of people that are collaborating together. And so, as you're making a choice about remote management or starting to use remote management, um, thinking about how will I use this amongst the other people that work with me will be really important. Um, in our system, we have various different user access levels that you can leverage. Um, but even a little bit more important than just knowing, oh, I can do this, it's important to think about, well, here are my needs today, but what are my needs going to be in the next year or the next couple of years? Um, Thinking about that allows you to utilize the tools that, whether it's the Rainbird system or another manufacturer's remote management system, there's likely some sort of feature that is meant for um, uh, access amongst multiple people. And the forethought to say, I'm going to set it up this way so that it works today, but it's also flexible for when I'm going to need it a little bit differently later on. Um, that's that's where you're really going to win when it comes to the choice and setup of your remote management. Collaboration is not just within our own organizations, though, right? And we have usually it's a pretty simple relationship, right? Where there's a professional contractor, installer, maintenance contractor working with a property owner, whether it's a commercial property owner or a homeowner. But we also see some more complex interactions among the people using our systems, right? We have people that have larger professional organizations with multiple branches. That also comes into play with government or public agency accounts. There might be consultants, designers, subcontractors that you're working with, or also someone who's using the front panel of the controller and also you using the remote management. And so, uh, expanding just my account to say, well, I'm going to keep adding and adding users, that becomes really difficult to manage over time. So one of the things to think about is, well, how is this remote management system going to allow me to collaborate with other people that might come and go over time? Um, and so one of the things on our end that we've gone after to address this problem or this need is a system uh, to share and collaborate between different peer-to-peer accounts, right? Um, Systems that allow you to hand off controllers where you install it and then someone else is going to take over the management of that and try to increase the continuity of that system, the settings, all of the work that was done initially to set it up, and then going from the installer to the maintenance contractor, for example. Um, those are tools to look for in a remote management system. And I've gotten a lot of questions about, I've got a lot of questions along the lines of, please tell me how exactly to use that feature. And that's great, right? And we're always really happy to help say, okay, this is exactly what you should do, A, B, and C to get your desired outcome. But we and I probably others, but definitely as we design the user access rights and the sharing capabilities, we aim for a level of flexibility so that as you learn these tools and experiment with them, you can say, "Oh, actually, this is the way that works best for me and the business outcomes I'm looking for from this." So I would highly encourage learn the features and tools that are available to you. Talk with your manufacturer's representative or your distributor, and just be willing to say, well, here's the tool. I'm going to leverage it in the way that I need to, rather than say, well, Rainbird, tell me exactly how I'm allowed to use this. Because guess what? You're allowed to use it however you want. We really encourage that. We see some uh, really innovative, creative ways that people leverage our tools and features. I'll hand it off to Eric here for a little bit here.
Sure. Thanks, Neil. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about connectivity selections. Usually you'll have a lot of different options. So I'll go over some of the areas that you'll want to consider before you make those selections, and some of the challenges you might face with that selection, as well as balancing cost and end user value. So let's jump right into it. One of the first items you'll consider when you're setting up an install will generally be controller capabilities. And you'll need to know how many stations, programs, and features are needed for the solution you're installing for the customer. So first, you'll consider the brands, models of controllers, which will directly influence what connectivity choices you have. So when you perform the installation, you'll want to plan for establishing connectivity. Is things like, is the controller mounted or located in a place that will work with the connectivity option that you want to use at this site? Since I'm from Rainbird, I'll use our controllers as an example. And usually a range of controllers will overlap with different use cases. And you'll see that different controllers may have different connectivity options. So using Rainbird's product offerings as an example, some of our light controllers will offer Wi-Fi or local Bluetooth connectivity only. So in that case, in our case, the TM2, RC2 controllers, and even those will most often be used for single family homes where the ESP ME3 controller and the new ESP2 wire controllers will start to overlap over single family home to light commercial, and 2-wire can even control or cover medium commercial locations. Also, another option is some controllers are battery operated and they may have Bluetooth only connectivity, like our BAT-BT controller. So while those don't have cloud connectivity, these wireless solutions can be used across single family installations all the way up to some large commercial sites, as they are standalone controllers. So while those battery operated controllers are Bluetooth only, you can still send schedules to people in the field to load onto those controllers when they're on site. These could be leveraged across agriculture, single homes, or even commercial properties. Now, when you consider cellular connection and other connectivity options, those will generally increase as you move to the right of this graphic into the more sophisticated commercial controllers in our LX series of controllers, like the LX-ME2 and the LX-IVM. Those are what we use to cover commercial properties. And as those are more sophisticated controllers, you'll have more ways to connect. So you'll have Wi-Fi directly be able to connect to the controllers locally, and then you start to be able to layer on things like cellular, Ethernet connectivity, even leveraging satellite hotspots or local Wi-Fi cellular hotspots. So as you step up in capabilities of controller, you'll often have more options for connectivity. Let's go to the next slide. So continuing in that conversation around connectivity and controller selection, it may be worth considering investing in one platform that you can scale across multiple types of properties or projects, and that will lend to building a efficiency or becoming an expert at that system and being able to leverage its capabilities across a lot of different properties and projects. So a platform that allows you to bring in different controller capacities or connection types helps you not end up feeling stuck or limit your ability to get the job done, depending on what is the situation at the job site. So being aware of the offerings and capabilities of the different manufacturers, you're better able to adapt to a customer's requests or work with a system that's already in place that you may be asked to work with, or at least point the customers in the right direction. So the more tools that you have in your tool belt of knowing, hey, I'm in an area, if you want to go to the next slide, Neil, um, you'll run into situations where your options might be limited. I'm sure you've all been there before. You show up at a job site, there's no power, there's no Wi-Fi. Maybe you're in a cellular dead zone, but the customer wants you to get them set up with a connected system, or at least set it up so that once they have Wi-Fi or power in the location, that they'll be able to easily set it up, or you come back and get them set up. So at that point, you can ask yourself, what's the best path to a great customer experience? Is the Wi-Fi reliable in the location? If not, do we need a mesh network or some sort of signal booster at the install location? Would a satellite Wi-Fi or hotspot meet the need of the situation? And what considerations are there working with a system like Starlink or some of the other options out there? Not all systems are compatible or give you a constant connection that you can reliably use to get the job done that you need to. So being aware of those options and really diving in and understanding those options will help you when you're talking with your customer to be able to bring in their potentially bring in their internet service provider to provide a better solution for that location. And what about power? Do you need a UPS power solution, solar panels, or even need to leverage a battery operated controller for a small time until you have power and connection at the connectivity at the location? So the more tools you're aware of, the better you'll be able to offer a solution to meet the customer's needs. And the next slide, there's a lot to consider when you're balancing cost and end user value. So costs can include, but are not limited to, the initial install costs of the hardware, connectivity modules, but also sometimes there's ongoing connectivity costs. So what is the monthly cost? Or in some situations, can you use an upfront cost, which is sometimes easier, especially in the commercial world for tax purposes. Also, another cost could be the support and ongoing maintenance, which is definitely an opportunity for you as business owners to create that value for the customer, but also benefit financially from that. So then we talked about the cost. Now let's look at the value to the end user. And keep in mind, you may be the primary end user as the maintenance contractor. Some of those um, situations will have you be the end user, and the property owner or property manager will want to be hands off as possible. So in essence, you're building the system for you to use and to use that as a way to delight the customer and keep the customer best served. And they'll be best served if you have the right options in place. So you'll want to have that conversation with the customer to balance the value and the cost they'll need to pay to get that value. You'll want to discuss reliable remote access and what kind of water savings they'll get from that. Real-time irrigation insights and reportings to show what type of watering they're using and what their savings have been over a period of time. Also, you'll be discussing ease of use and accessibility. What will they be able to do, and what will you be able to do for them, and at what time frame? So taking the time and cost to do it right the first time and meet the needs of the project. It's not always an easy conversation with the customer, but being flexible and the more options you're familiar with, the easier it will be for you to find a solution that fits their budget and lands you the job. So now I'll turn it over back to Neil, who's going to talk a little bit about some efficiency wins and setbacks and how to deal with those.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, remote management is awesome. It's what we invest a ton of time and resources in, both from the perspective of product development on both the hardware and software side. Um, but it's never nothing is an easy button these days. It seems everything always comes with how to get the most out of it. Want to talk about a little bit of that here. I do also want to mention, and we'll actually touch on some of this in our slides upcoming here. Getting a lot of awesome questions in the chat here, and I want to remind all of you, if you have like a specific question about the um, features or how to use the features for Rainbird systems, um, we'll we might have some time or take some time to go through them here in this webinar. I don't really think that was sort of the goal of this webinar. So please leverage pro support at rainbird.com. We also have specific central control focused staff members. We also have other support resources, and our emails are in the chat. So Eric and I no longer have a way to get away from any of you. I joke. But for those of you with granular questions or specific use cases, please don't be shy, right? We put a lot of effort into making sure that we have different support resources available. And I'll put in the chat right now the main one, which is sort of a go-to place to start, which is our pro support team. They are a group of our customer service professionals that are specifically trained and focused on helping professional irrigation contractors or professionals in the irrigation space. So great place to start. If they can't help you, they have multiple different paths to escalate or reach out for additional help from other resources within Rainbird. I saw a comment in the chat about, there can be high turnover at distribution or at the local level, and all of Rainbird's at your disposal. But the pro support at rainbird.com is an excellent place to start for that. Back to our presentation though for a moment. So, when we think about how to use remote management, some of the easy ones that you're used to, you know, utilizing weather-based adjustment, or being able to do something as simple as turn off a controller or set a rain delay from afar. Those are sort of like givens at this point. But one of the things that we see people utilizing our systems for more and more is I just referenced it, turnover, right? Um, I think irrigation is like any industry. There's some degree, more than we'd all like, of turnover. I hear it day in and day out from our professional customers. They say, "Yeah, I've got a new season, and again, probably twice as much of my staff as I would like are new or new to my team." Um, and so, especially as we think about someone who's managing multiple properties or inheriting properties, right? There's not always like a site map. There's not always uh, a B, C, all the way to Z listing of everything you might need to know in order to work efficiently on that site. Someone new, or it's just a site you don't remember like the back of your hand, you show up and there's a problem, and the customer, the property owner, the stakeholder, the homeowner, they're standing there saying, I need you to fix this problem. And the first thing you do is you look around and say, I'm not sure where to begin, right? Or and you know none of us are helpless, right? But uh, those minutes, those hours that you spend trying to figure out what to do, or where to do it before you start performing the work, performing the improvements, those are costly. So remote management can help you with that, right? It's not just about I call it controlling the controller. Um, there's all sorts of little tools and features that we build into our systems, and again, I think every manufacturer has different options here, different ways that they try to address this. But there's a lot of effort that goes into trying to say, okay, how do we make that more efficient for you? And so looking in your remote management choices and in your setup for ways to address not just how do I put water out more efficiently, but how do I make it so that when I'm there physically on site, how do I make it so that I'm doing myself a service by being more efficient? Um, the most simple tool is just naming and note taking within the software, and that's something that both the Rainbird mobile app, as well as IQ, offers you. And uh, you might, some of you on the call might roll your eyes and say, "Of course, I name everything," but you would be shocked because I help a number of people every single day with their systems, and you would be shocked how many of them don't take advantage of that. So that's a really important thing to remember. We see the people who leverage this best; they almost develop sort of a like a code within their company to say, "This is how we name things when we mean X, Y, and Z." So that's really important. The mapping and image uploading tools are also really critical. Where, like, to use a Rainbird system as an example, being able to utilize a photograph to say, well, here's where the valve box is, right? So no matter if it gets covered up by dirt or grass over time, it's easy to identify. Or utilizing our mapping feature to say, if someone is brand new, right, it's their literal first day working for you, and they've um, to uh, never been to the property before. Um, they show up and they're able to say, "Well, I'm standing in this yellow area, which indicates it's a watered area from this station." And right away, instead of walking around and trying to figure out where the valve box is, within seconds, that person who has no business knowing everything about that site, they know it, right? And they can start solving that problem, whether it be a programming, electrical, mechanical problem. Um, they're off to the races actually performing the work rather than walking around trying to figure out what to do. I will hand it off to Eric for this portion here. Eric, you're on mute.
Of course, someone had to do it. Um, So a lot of times you'll run into forces beyond your control, and I talked a little bit about some of these challenges that you might run into when you're setting up your system. But with a system, especially that's already in place, a lot of times you'll find internet connectivity challenges, and these could be from things within your control or possibly outside of your control, including router issues. Sometimes the router needs to be replaced, or your mesh network is not playing nicely with some of your equipment. ISP outages are a real challenge, especially when there's locations that may have flapping, or when the internet is going up and down in a quick manner. That usually causes havoc for systems that are connected to the internet. And that's not just in the irrigation world, but something that you'll see with all sorts of Internet of Thing devices. Cellular connectivity can be a real issue. Um, you'll find one location, maybe 2 blocks away, you've got no problems with the cellular card, but here you are at this place, and it's in a dead zone, or usually what's worse is not a dead zone, but areas where you'll have 1 bar, 2 bars, and then all of a sudden it'll totally drop out, depending on the time of day or how many people are streaming Netflix in that location. There's a lot of issues that you'll face in situations like these. I've noticed personally, helping people that have a Starlink or satellite system. Sometimes the connectivity isn't there, and depending on sometimes weather situations, you'll see connectivity issues with some of those satellite systems, or if clouds come in, a storm, etc., that will sometimes cause some issues. So either having a backup, or if you know that the system is in a place that will often face weather events, sometimes you'll need to make or consider a different option in that install. Looking at power outages, how important is it that this system is up no matter if there's power outages or if you've got clean power to the site? So looking at either UPS or some other options for keeping power, not only for the controller, but also for if you've got a router or some sort of other connection device in that location, making sure that that maintains the power if that's something that's needed that for that site. So talking through your these situations with your customer, making sure that they understand what are the limitations, what are some of the forces that are beyond your control, but giving them options, at least so that they know, hey, when a where we live in Arizona, sometimes we'll face seasonal monsoons. I know in Florida area, you're going to run into things like hurricanes. um, Giving the customer options, and if you know those options, you can present those to them, and it's not only meeting their needs, but it's also another way um, to get the financial benefit of having those options to offer them. If you want to go to the next slide. And I spoke with a bit about some of this, but just I think it's important to know your options. The more that you know what the options that the customer can use, and remembering a lot of times the customer's budget is not our budget. Something that we might think, oh, it's too expensive to offer them a cellular card option, for example. Maybe it seems expensive to us, but if it meets the customer's needs, don't be hesitant to offer such a solution, because that might be exactly what they're looking for. Um, I did see a question in the chat about some support and training links. I can definitely speak to the Rainbird side of those. I put a link in the chat, and we'll cover it at the end of this slide, or the end of the slide deck. But reach out to the manufacturer and distributor that you work with, and you can ask for support and training and ask those questions about connectivity. How do I deal with a situation where we're in an area that's prone to fires, and what would be a good solution to offer the customer so that they can um, be aware of situations with flow or with their system not working because the power is shut off due to some fire risk, etc. Work with your distributor manufacturers to get that support and training when you do have questions. And then resiliency. If there's an issue that affects your remote access to the system, what will that mean for you? What are your options? Do you have options other than, well, it's down, let's just roll a truck? Or are there ways for you to remotely reboot a system or contact the customer and let them know, hey, I've identified that the issue looks to be on the ISP side. So can you reach out to your internet provider and ask them to take a look at your system when sometimes it's an issue with that? Can you still use the onboard controls, or are you limited to only being able to access once you, let's say you put in a Wi-Fi module, if you're only able to connect it to it remotely at that point or from a mobile device, or are you still able to, if that remote connection is gone, can you still go right up to the panel and make those changes or start a device manual control with that system? That's something that's important to know so that you can tell the customer, hey, worst case scenario, if I can't do a remote access to it, they're at least familiar with how to go to the device and make it work the way that they need to or make any changes. Um, let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, I think I wanted to
Please.
come back to the topic of, it's not just about controlling the controller, right? Settings management, making settings management more efficient, or doing it from anywhere. Um, that's that's step one, right? Which is really important and provides a lot of value in and of itself. But I think one of the things that we see here, and Eric referenced the idea that our budget is not always the customer's budget. They may not see things the same way that we do in all cases. But there's a lot more beyond just, oh, I can do a weather-based adjustment, that goes into why remote management is so important. And I think even we find ourselves at Rainbird needing to kind of remind ourselves of this, right? That a lot of the value is not coming from the same place where some of these remote management solutions were, um, you say, developed or ideated from back in the day, from some of these more core use cases. And it's really a lot more than that for our day to day business workflows. Simple things, cutting down on how frequently we roll trucks, being able to prepare for a problem from afar, right? Customer calls and says, hey, I'm standing here and I see a problem, and again, leveraging the map that you can build in IQ to identify what watered areas are related to which station or stations. And you may be able to figure out, without ever walking on site or asking for any more detail from the customer, say, well, I know it's this type of station, so it uses this type of solenoid or valve, these types of spray heads, and that way you can be sure that when you're going to site, you have everything that you need and you have the expertise that you need going to site. Um, and then once you're there, being more efficient, right? Your time is your money, but your time is oftentimes the property owner's money as well. And so being able to convey these efficiency gains to your customer, um, we hear it all the time, right? Well, I bought a controller, great. I didn't option remote management because we didn't want the added cost, which the bottom line is the bottom line in a lot of situations. There's no two ways about that. Um, but oftentimes the remote management is something that has very quickly efficiency and therefore resource money benefits that outweigh that initial investment very quickly. So once again, as you think about your remote management providers, as you think about what type of connectivity, what type of remote management software, whether it's the Rainbird Link 2 Wi-Fi connectivity with the mobile app and now with IQ as well, whether it's the LX with the IQ cartridge, or whether it's something else, understanding what that means for your business beyond just the core, the classic use cases of remote management is really going to be a boon to your ability to match your customer with a good solution. And very quickly, everyone will be better off for it. So it's kind of the end of what Eric and I had planned. Eric already referenced it, and it was noted in the chat. But if you want more resources and want to learn more, there's the rainbird.com/learning, which is available, and there's all sorts of videos and other resources for you to engage with. Most or many of them, I'll say many of them totally free, right? Sign up, start consuming some of this this training content. Eric and I are both product managers at Rainbird. And so you'll find both of us in a number of those videos. But if you're tired of looking at us, all of our other product managers have also conducted trainings there for you to learn about. And that goes for controllers, right? Which intermingle with this remote management topic, but also things like our mechanical products, the black plastic in the ground, all sorts of things that you can learn about and benefit from at the Rainbird Learning Platform. Our giveaway winner, Adeline Woodward. So congratulations, big round of applause. Yeah.
Yeah, big congratulations, and Eric and Neil, thank you very much for that. You know, we've had an incredibly robust and prolific chat throughout the conversation today. I would love to know, was there anything that stood out, Neil or Eric, to you all that you would like to answer, kind of bring up, anything like that here in the next? We've got a few minutes here.
You know, Eric and I think we're proud to make ourselves available. I like to consider myself easy to get a hold of. I'm sure there's probably someone in the chat who said, well, I emailed him and it took him a long time to get back to me. But I think we try our best. You know, the number one thing, Rainbird invests a lot of energy into training and staffing our support teams. And I can't say it enthusiastically enough. Please take advantage of that pro support at rainbird.com email address. Many of the questions that have come to them over the years that they needed additional help with, they come to me and Eric as well, right? So if you go to pro support, you get 100% of Rainbird's support just from that email address right there. But there's more of them there, and they're dedicated to answering your questions and helping you with your problems, your issues, frankly, even when it's not a Rainbird product, as much as they can. So I highly encourage everyone, if you have specific questions, utilize that. You'll be glad you did. So.
Excellent. Well, you know what? I think that's probably a great note for us to end on. So again, Neil, Eric, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to spread a little bit of knowledge and be joined by the several hundred people who were able to be a part of our presentation today. And hope you guys have a great rest of your afternoon, and looking forward to seeing you guys at the show here in just a couple of short weeks.
Yeah, come see us. Tell us what you liked or didn't like about our presentation.
Definitely.
I love that. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye,
all.
everyone.
Bye.